I wanted to put together a little video here that shows you how to use Lexington Kentucky GlobalTuner #1, and I'm starting at the main page of GlobalTuners. To get to this point, of course, you do have to be logged in. If you're not logged on and you try to go to GlobalTuners.com, it will ask you for your login ID and password. It's totally free to register and use GlobalTuners, but you do have to provide some information, including an email address. So this is the main page. I'm going here to click on Online Receivers. This gives me a page of all the receivers that are online. Those that say over here that they are online do have one or more users. When it says free, that means that nobody is using that particular receiver, but it is online. So I'm going to click on Lexington Kentucky #1. So this is sort of the home page for the receiver, if you will. And then the first thing I'm going to do is click on Tune this receiver, and after a short delay we will get the skin, if you will, with all the receiver controls, and I want to talk about how to use these. This receiver is a ICOM PCR 1000. I want to call your attention first of all to the information window, which is you have to kind of scroll down a little bit to see this, and there's some really important information that you will want to know when using this receiver. First of all, as I say, it's an ICOM PCR 1000. The antenna is a slinky dipole, which is in the attic here. There is an audio delay. When something happens, it will be a few seconds before you'll actually hear the audio. If somebody is using the receiver, there is a button that says "May I tune please" that you can click on to request permission to use the receiver. There's no rotator on this receiver, so any controls related to turning a rotator do not apply here, and there's only one antenna, so there's no antenna switching. I want to point out that there are a lot of amateur radio transmitters at this location, and it is possible from time to time that one of those transmitters will interfere with what you are listening to on the receiver. Sometimes I hear kind of a choppiness in the audio, and if you hear that, either contact a sysop for GlobalTuners or open up a support ticket, because the only way to fix that is to restart the receiver. I don't impose any kind of time limit on your usage of the receiver, but I do ask that you be courteous to other people that log in and may wish to use the receiver. The first thing you'll probably want to do is come up here and click on Audio Start right there. If I can scroll up a little bit, yeah, there it is right there, and we're getting some audio, sure enough. Obviously you can stop it by clicking the stop button, but presumably if you're here to listen, so one of the first things that needs to get done is clicking on Audio Start. The frequency that's the default when you first log in is one of the Lexington police frequencies. There's a number of ways in which you can change the frequency. The first one I'm going to talk about is the interfrequency box here. Important to note that the frequency here is entered in megahertz. So for example, if I want to go to 162.4 megahertz, I type in 162.4, I then hit enter, and the frequency will change to that. That's a NOAA weather frequency here locally, and so we immediately hear that station, which runs 24/7. Other ways to change the frequency include these buttons up here. Again, we're talking about in megahertz. So I'm going to hit 162.4 and set frequency. It will change, and that takes us back to the weather frequency that I mentioned a moment ago.
The storms will be gusty winds and small hail. And now the extended outlook for the period Monday through Saturday. Additional thunderstorms will be possible Monday afternoon in southern Kentucky.
Similarly, I can set it back to the police frequency. This tuning knob will also change frequencies. These little buttons down here advance the frequency based on the tuning step, which you see right here. And the default tuning step on this receiver is 1000 hertz, which is also 1 kilohertz. So if I click on these buttons, you'll see that I move up 1 kilohertz. Or similarly, I can move down 1 kilohertz as well. I can also tune by means of this knob here, and so I can go down or I can go up in frequency, just however I care to do it. Now this step size here, this tuning step size, can be changed. There's a button here that says enter tuning step. I can either select a predefined step, so that just changed it to 5 kilohertz or 5000 hertz. So now if I tune, it will. I've got to close the box first. Yeah. So now I tune, I'm changing in 5 kilohertz steps. If I want to type in a custom step size, let's say for example I want a 2 kilohertz step, I can do that by typing in that window there and then hitting enter. And so now I've got a 2 kilohertz step. Note here in the tuning step size thing that we are using kilohertz here. So for example, for 1 kilohertz I just type in a 1. If I wanted less than 1 kilohertz, it would be a decimal point followed by something. The mode buttons over here are very important to note. The receiver supports AM, FM, single sideband, and CW, and within FM it supports both the narrow FM, which is common for utility communications such as police, and then wide FM will be necessary for FM broadcast stations. Be sure to pay attention to what mode you have selected for the receiver. I see a lot of people that come in, that log on to the receiver, enter a frequency, but don't set the mode properly. So for example, listening on the shortwave bands, they end up trying to listen in FM mode, which is not going to work at all. Bandwidth buttons are over here. For example, 15 kilohertz bandwidth is used for FM utility communications such as the police. If I change down to shortwave, and of course I want to change the mode to, for example, lower sideband for this particular amateur band. And then I'm given different sizes here for the bandwidth. Right now I'm on 6 kilohertz. If I have a little bit of interference around the side there, I can also drop it to 3 kilohertz. I'm going to set the volume down there a little bit. Some buttons here. This receiver has an attenuator. That's what this ATT is. You'll see down here that it confirmed that I set the attenuator on. after a delay you would notice significantly lower volume. There is an automatic gain control on this receiver, which you will probably want to use when you're listening to a specific station. The noise blanker will be particularly helpful if you're listening to something in AM, because AM seems to pick up a lot of noise. And then there's also a voice squelch control, which will mute the audio if there isn't a voice present. Now note that this is different from the actual squelch control on the receiver. This receiver supports IF shift as another way that you can move the pass band of the receiver around a little bit, so that it's possibly to attenuate some interference. As you move this around, note that in the window that you will get a reading of how far that you've moved the IF shift, and of course you'll notice a change in the audio characteristics when you do that. The squelch control is right here. The default is 25%, which I find works well on FM utility and communications in the VHF and UHF range. But you can, however, adjust that. If you move this slider all the way to the left, it'll say squelch is 0, which means that it's now wide open and the squelch will not activate at all. Similarly, you can increase it all the way to 100% if you want, and but what typically I find seems to work is right around 25%. There's a volume control here, as you can see. If you feel free to use that if you prefer to adjust the volume there rather than your individual settings on your personal computer. The balance control, if you have stereo speakers on your computer, you can move the balance from one speaker to the other. There's a button here that says feel free to tune. If somebody else logs onto the receiver while you are using it, you can click on feel free to tune. You can also click on decline tune, but I do prefer that you give everybody an opportunity to try the receiver and listen to what they're interested in. Back over here on the right, there's a little button called ham bands, and instead of the numeric pad, this gives you individual buttons for the various amateur bands. So that makes it very easy to change frequencies to various ham frequencies, and then of course you can switch back to the number pad if you so desire. If you wish to enter logging in our user logs, feel free to do so. Click on this user log button, and then it gives you a place to put in the station ID and whatever comments that you would care to include about that. What I'd like to do now is scroll back down here again and talk about some things that are down here. We already talked about receiver information. Receiver band guides are here, and it will say receiver information. You have to click on this little down arrow here. You'll then see the various categories of band guides that I have created for Lexington #1. If I click on law enforcement, you will then see the frequencies that I've listed here, and if something here interests you, all you need to do is just click on the tune button, and the receiver will switch to that frequency. In almost all cases, it will also select the proper bandwidth and the proper mode, but check to be sure that it's set up correctly. Also down here towards the bottom of the screen we have the global frequency database, and you can do a search. So for example, I'll do a search on Lexington, and the global frequency database will give us a number of things there that might be of interest to you. Last things I want to point out here are first of all the user list here. There's also another area here that you can look at to get your band guides, and then we also have user logging, so you can see things that that various users have logged here down through the years. This area here is global chat, and this is a chat room that essentially covers everybody that's logged on to GlobalTuners, any GlobalTuner anywhere. So feel free to chat and exchange information with your fellow listeners. Over here on the left we have the local chat, and you will also note that the various actions that I've taken on the receiver are listed here, and it's always nice to look down here and confirm that that what you clicked on actually happened. So this information is here, and it will tell you that the changes have been made. Similarly, you can chat with other users here if there are other people on the receiver. So that's the Lexington Kentucky #1 Global Tuner. I hope this helps, and I hope that you'll stop by and listen sometime.